race fans. Ryan Aho here, the one and only Bert Lehman. Bert, we're getting closer. We're getting close. It doesn't feel like it. If you're in central northern Minnesota, the Twin Ports, you're going, you're out of your mind. It's a disaster up there again. But I promise you, we're getting a little closer to some dirt flying in our areas. Well, are you excited?
I see Cedar Lake canceled their practice and opening weekend.
Yeah, everybody's soft. I don't know why they can't pack it in. I'm not really sure. The snow turns to moisture. We raced in the snow. No, I get it. You can't be racing in that crap. But I think we're around the corner. Things are gonna happen. Happen.
Yeah, around here, at least now, the forecast has temperatures in high 40s, 50s, possibly 60s over the next week. So hopefully with a lot of sun, because there needs to be a lot of melting and drying.
What are we, about a week and a half? Not this weekend, but next weekend's the Dirt Kings opener too, isn't it? At
well, yeah, it's supposed to be. But we'll see.
Time for negativity. No time for negativity.
But either way, you can come to Shawano Speedway on, what is that, the 15th, that Saturday, because Fan Fest has been rescheduled, and it's either going to be at the fairgrounds or at the Crawford building, which is right next to the racetrack. So,
yeah, all depends on weather. So hopefully it's at the racetrack, the fairgrounds. You can have racing. Hopefully all that happens. So we'll, I guess we'll find out in a couple weeks if that's the case or not. But episode 171, of course, I should say 171A. Well, we'll get there. But brought to you by Dirt Track Supply, our friends over in Watertown, South Dakota. You want to talk about some people passionate about racing? Ron and Trevor over there are very passionate about racing. Both of them have had great careers behind the wheel, but more importantly, they help so many others. I mean, not just with their parts business there, Bert, but they help a lot of others, right? If people need advice, if they have questions, give them guys a call. They're there to help you. They love racing. They want to do everything they can to grow the sport. But don't forget, if you need parts, tires, chassis work, you name it, Dirt Track Supply in Watertown is your go-to for all things racing. So, Bert, it's going to be a fun show. We got some pretty cool topics on here. Going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to start with this, okay? We're going to kind of go through the agenda here. We're going to talk a little bit about USMTS. Is there or is there not some dominance in USMTS? Little race fan feedback. I had a late question come in. Thought it was pretty good. The champ stays hot in World of Outlaw sprint car action. Little drama there, maybe not. We'll talk about that. Star-studded field, Bert, at the Lucas Oil MLRA opener down in Wheatland. Everybody rained out, so they had a great field of cars, but there was also some drama that might have stole the headlines down in Wheatland. Our picks, some bold, maybe not so bold predictions, depending. But first, let's start with this. So with Soda, Bert, they come out with a big announcement. I said there was going to be a big announcement about tires. Well, it wasn't about tires. Okay, you can buy tires now though. But they came out with an announcement pertaining to the 2023 Soda 100. Did you happen to see that? Did you read that press release?
I did not see that press release.
You're a hater. So everybody, Bert Lehman, B-E-R-T.
How am I a hater? I didn't see it.
He is a WISSOTA hater. Hates WISSOTA. Hates WISSOTA. All them Eastern Wisconsin guys hate WISSOTA. Just kidding. So they got three things that kind of changed up at the WISSOTA 100, and kind of the mindset's been, let's be honest, there's specials every weekend. There's all kinds of specials. How do we make this stand apart, right? How do we make this different? Well, they're opening up Wednesday night at the WISSOTA 100 this year with the Structural Buildings WISSOTA Late Model Challenge Series finale. So they're closing out the Challenge Series on night one at the 100. It's still going to be counted. That night one race the top 8 will be locked into Saturday's feature.
Okay.
But kind of a cool deal to lock that up right there at the WISSOTA 100, make that special. Pretty excited about that over I-94 I-94 EMR Speedway now it is in Fergus Falls. No Race of Champions. We touched on this here about a month ago. but they have eliminated the Race of Champions from the WISSOTA 100. Mixed feelings on that. Bert, you've been to several WISSOTA 100s. What is your thoughts on them dropping the Race of Champions?
I personally don't like the fact that the Race of Champions has been dropped. I mean, maybe it's not that big of a deal anymore, but back in the 1990s, when Eastern Wisconsin late model tracks were still part of WISSOTA, that was one of the cool things about winning a track championship was you got to race in that Race of Champions. I know when MJ won championships at Langley County Speedway in Antigo, you know, that was one of the things, you know, one of the benefits of winning the championship was being able to race in that race. And, you know, at that time, you know, East and West Wisconsin only raced a few times against each other. Well, now they hardly do it all, unless the Eastern drivers travel to the West. But it was just cool being able to race with the best of the best from the different tracks in WISSOTA.
Yeah, I got mixed feelings on it. I mean, I get it. I kind of like what they're doing. And quite honestly, I don't know how to say it without saying it, but they've, as an organization, I don't know who's in charge of it. They've done such a terrible job promoting that over the last decade that nobody even cared. Nobody, you know, you didn't even know. They didn't post on social media or anything like when the qualifiers were, who qualified. There was really no hype for it. So if you're not building it up and making it appear special, nobody cares, right? So that kind of happened. So, but I do know that Doug Koski, a friend of mine that runs into Superstock, he usually goes to Cedar Lake for the Legendary. Well, last year he went to Fergus only because he made the Race of Champions. You know, so there is that. They do gain cars because of it. How many, I don't know. But on the flip side of it, they're taking that money and reallocating it. And I don't have all the details, and I don't think they quite have them either. But they're taking the money that was allotted to the Race of Champions in each class, and they're going to put that into the qualifying features for the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday portions, which haven't paid well. And they're going to, sounds like they're going to take kind of the middle. I don't know all the details there, but it's going to be given back to the racers, needless to say. And that's something the racers have been complaining about for a long time, is them qualifying features, they don't pay very good, right? So putting more money towards them is probably a good thing. The other thing they're doing, Bert, is the WISSOTA Mod 4s, WISSOTA Pure Stocks, and the WISSOTA Hornets are no longer going to be a part of the WISSOTA 100 at Fergus Falls. They're going to have an event the week before, like a grassroots night. I don't remember the exact name. You can look on the website for that for WISSOTA, but they're going to have that up in Bemidji. And you couldn't find a more grassroots type racetrack than Bemidji. Few people are kind of butthurt about it, right? Some of the drivers are like, well, what do you mean we're not being able to be part of the WISSOTA 100? You get your own special, okay? You still get a special. They're still going to be paying the big purse. The winners get to go to the 100. And quite honestly, the way they did it in the past, Bert, they ran the Pures and Hornets on Tuesday, right? Well, most of the Hornet drivers are kids. Well, they couldn't go on Tuesday, right? So they weren't getting no cars. And I'm gonna share my thoughts, but do you have any initial thoughts when I say that Mod 4's Pures Hornets no longer at the actual WISSOTA 100, they have their own standalone event? What's your thoughts on that?
So what divisions are left for the 100? The two mod divisions, super stocks and late models,
and street stocks.
I mean, that's plenty for a show. And like you said, you know, if those other divisions were racing on Tuesday night, you know, I mean, I understand you want to be part of the big show. But I mean, at least they didn't get rid of that night and just say, screw you guys. We're not going to do anything for you. You're just not going to be part of it. You know, I mean, right. They're giving them their own special. I mean, I understand wanting to be part of the big show, but you know, in the long run, this, you know, it's probably better for them anyway.
And I love Fergus Falls. I think that is a fantastic racetrack. Little too big for those three classes anyway. bringing those 3 classes to a smaller type bull ring, in my opinion, is probably going to be a better program. But I get it, right? On the driver's side of it, if I was in one of those 3 classes, I'm like, I want to be on that big stage. I want to be there. I get it. I get it. I totally understand, and there's a few of them that are upset about it, and I get it. But on the flip side of it, Bert, when I was, my first couple of years, and this was a long time ago, but my first couple of years in the hobby stock division, well, guess what? None of the postseason invitationals, right? The Labor Day shootout didn't have them. They finally added them my last year. They didn't have them. The Red Clay Classic didn't have them. The Punky didn't have them. The 100, they didn't have hobby stocks at these specials. And kind of the idea is give them some kind of a special during the year. But if they want to race them bigger events at the postseason, that gives them something to look forward to, right? When they move up, right? When they're like, hey, I'm gonna jump into a streeter, I'm gonna jump into a Midwest Mod, a Super. Well, when they move up, guess what? Now they get to be part of them big shows. It's something to look forward to. So I think overall, Bert, I think Westota kind of hit a home run on this one. I'm for it, and I get it. Some people are gonna give hate mail. They're kind of pissed off, a few of them, but at the end of the day, I think for the event as a whole, I think this is probably a pretty good thing. So what do you say we jump into a blast to the past, Bert? And before we do that, 2 things. First, we got a special guest coming on here today. I'm kind of excited. I'm nervous, but I'm kind of excited. So bear with me. There he is. He is. We got my right-hand man here. So we talked about him, Bert, a few different times, right? So we talked about my old pit guy, Chonga, Jim McClellan, with me during all my championship years. It's episode 171A, right? So we haven't got into any of the 71 drivers there, Jim. But Jim, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, guys. Nice to meet you, Bert.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Hey, you're supposed to wear a tie with that Ryan Aho hoodie. It's kind of like
I haven't worn this in a decade, but we got her out for the special occasion.
Yeah, you might get shot at. Depending where you go, you might get shot at. So before we get into the blast of the past, a shout out to Impact Health Sharing. If you're self-employed, if you're a business owner and you got to cover people with insurance and you're paying too much for healthcare, we might have an alternative for you to help you save a lot of money that you can maybe put towards racing. Just saying. But the fact is, you're looking at about $600 per month on average for a family, with a combined family deductible of about $2,500. So it's a great deal, worth checking into. Might be for you, might not. But number, if you want to text 218-969-1380, or shoot me a message on Facebook and I can get you some information. But here we go. So we got episode 71. Bert, let's kind of bounce back and forth. Jim, you can throw a couple in if you got them, because I know you have a couple. But Bert, let's start with you. Number 71. First name that comes to mind for you is who?
Well, Ryan Aho, of course.
All right, my head is already too big. I'm just a dumbass with a mic. Okay, so now we'll get to that in a minute. So,
probably one of the most famous 71s in Wisconsin racing. I think I have his correct number. Leon Plank.
Oh, absolutely. He was the man. That was one of my favorite drivers growing up. I got some pictures with him as a kid. And yeah, he was fantastic. Raced Menominee and kind of that area, Menominee, Rice Lake, Cedar Lake. And do you have any memories of Leon Plank? And Jim, you can chime in if you got any memories of old Leon from back in the day yourself.
I do not. I mean, unfortunately, I don't remember him racing, actually. I don't remember seeing him race. So I don't have any memories of him racing. I just, know the name is very famous in Wisconsin late model racing.
Yeah, he won some big ones in our area. He won the Labor Day Shootout, the Silver 1000, a ton of other races. But one thing, Jim, I remember, you guys remember the old Stock Car Racing magazine and Circle Track Racing magazine?
Yep. Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't remember which one it was, but he was one of the first, I would call him a somewhat local guy that actually was in that magazine. So I became a fan because I'm like, this is freaking cool. Like, that guy comes to our track. He's in this magazine. This is awesome. But Jim, you got any memories of old Leon?
I don't know how many memories I have other than kind of, near the end of his career when he was hanging out with Kanta, and they were kind of a powerhouse combination.
Yeah, for sure. The old LPI lift systems there. So I got a little quick quiz here for old Jim. Driver from Duluth, that one of his favorite drivers, in fact, probably his favorite driver from what he said, was Leon Plank. His first year's racing for, I believe, around 5 years, he was number 71.
A driver from Duluth, number 71? God, I don't know. I don't got nothing.
He built your shit box.
No kidding, huh? Jimmy Rich?
Jimmy Rich. Yeah, Lauren sent that over him. I had no idea that Jimmy Rich, who obviously was 55, your dad with Allied, is it Allied Taxi or Allied Cab?
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, he sponsored him. Actually owned his car. Jimmy built what, the Joker chassis? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was the JR quick car chassis and cages, and then it was Joker chassis. And I don't know if you'd appreciate it being called the shit box, but
He built some pretty good hot rods. Hell of a fabricator, good dude. Why don't you share a memory? You got a lot of them with Jimmy Rich, but what comes to mind when you think Jimmy Rich?
Just going to the track with, subpar equipment, junk tires, and probably superior when we battled with Rosine and Murado and beating them guys back in the day when they were super fast.
As long as he could keep the engine in the car, because he kind of had a hand grenade under the hood.
I don't know, they were pretty fast.
Right. So the next one we have here, okay, is we have two drivers that each have a pair of WISSOTA national championships.
Is this for me again now?
Either one of you.
You caught me off. You caught me off guard here.
All right. Either number 71, right, or 171. One of them had a 171 for a while.
Is it we're not doing just late models like Puka and Bert, right?
Nope.
I'll go with how about Strand?
Yep, Brian Strand. You remember that name, don't you, Bert?
Yes.
So I got Brian another Strand, one too.
Yeah, and I know you do. We'll get to that in a sec.
Oh, so there's Brian a couple Strand, more.
Two-time WISSOTA. Well, yeah, fair enough. There is a couple more. So two-time WISSOTA modified national champion, had a great career in the modifieds and in the late model division. He started Fast Lane Racing, which not Fast Lane Motorsports International, but Fast Lane Racing in Bemidji. They moved back out to North Dakota, build the Millennium chassis. Great legacy because his son Dustin Strand is an incredible racer as well, with multiple national championships. And kind of a little fun story, guys. My very first feature win in a super stock, my first feature win, right? Brian Strand won he won't like this, but he won the feature in Bemidji. And they had the tech area right when you pulled off the track. And for whatever reason, he drove by the tech, went back to his trailer. I don't know if he forgot or if he was overheating. I'm not really sure, but they disqualified him and I won by default. I'm like, well, not how I want to win my first one, but I guess I'll take it. But that guy won a lot of races. So let's jump back to Bert for a second. Okay, we got Brian Strand in the book. Who else you got, Bert?
Well, I have two drivers from Eastern Wisconsin. I don't have any others from Western Wisconsin.
Give us one of them from out east.
Okay, one of them is Dan Grosskreitz. He raced late models at Shawano, probably late 80s and early 1990s. His son is Cody Grosskreitz. I know I've talked about the fire on the front stretch at Shawano Speedway a lot, where the one driver pulled the other driver out of the car. And Cody Grosskreitz was one of the drivers that was involved in that, one of the three drivers involved in that wreck. So,
okay. Yeah, that, racing fan, I tell you, racing is like a big family. They band together. We've seen that more than once. There was an incident with Dobmeyer, with that fire he had just about a month ago where drivers jumped out of the cars. So pretty cool story there. All right. Good old Changa here. Who do you have next? Another, not me, but another WISSOTA two-time national champion.
Pete Wallers, maybe?
Pete Wallers, the old 71R, right? So Pete actually cut his teeth in the hobby stock division from Kelly Lake. Big racing legacy from Kelly Lake, Minnesota, over by Hibbing. But then he transitioned when he was still in the hobbies, transitioning into the supers. He actually drove for my dad a little bit, ran a few nights for him, ran for Ed Vessel, and then he jumped up into the 17. His first car was just awful looking. It was just not a good deal. But then he switched to 71. He went 17 that first year because my dad was already 71, and out of respect to him, he's like, I'll just go 17. And my dad said, well, my career's kind of coming to an end. If we're both in a super, you go take 71 because you're going to race longer than me. So he did, and he went on to win the first two WISSOTA Superstock national championships, moved on into a late model, had a great career there. And then he did, was it ASA or ARCA that Pete Wallers did? I think it was ASA. He had a little stint in the 04 in the ASA car. And now his kid, Zach Wallers, old Jungle Boy, I got to be honest with you, he's probably, when you go to the Grand Rapids Speedway, the most fun to watch in the late model because he's up on the chip and he's not afraid to hustle the high side. So Pete Waller's definitely a good one. Had a great career. Now, late model, quick quiz for both of you. Late model house car for Lou Fager's Racing Equipment. Okay, there was multiple drivers, 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. There might have been a few more that maybe ran a show or 2. Who can name the 3 drivers off the top of their head that ran the 71 house car for Faggers?
3, huh?
I can picture the car was yellow and white.
Yellow and white with a swooping 71 kind of badass looking number on there. So the first one, I mean, should be easy. The first one should be easy. The Faggers house car.
Steve Fagers.
Steve Fagers, right. Yeah. Which is Justin and Marshall Fager's dad. So Steve Fagers would be probably the one that ran it the most. Okay. Another one, he also ran a car that was number 57 in the late model division. Jerry Leggett.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember the one that raced against us.
Yep.
I'm drawing a blank.
What's that?
I'm drawing a blank on the one we raced against. I got a little dementia going on here, you know.
Well, we one of the drivers here, right, actually ran some open shows with this.
Yep.
Is still racing today. Different number, still racing today.
Oh, I know who it is. I'm drawing a blank.
All right, Jim, I'm going to give you a clue.
You just come back to me in about 10 minutes.
Fox Ridge Speedway. We're there with the late model.
Yep, I remember him. I
was running up in the top 3. I broke, I think, an oil pump or something, and he literally ran over me in 1 and 2.
Oh, I know. Lance Matthews?
Lance Matthews, yeah.
Oh, no, that's not who I was thinking of.
He had thick glasses at the time. I went up, I'm like, what the hell happened? He goes, you try looking through them. I'm like, good enough? Good enough. So, yeah. So, Steve Fagers, Lance Matthews, Jerry Leggett all ran that house car. Probably more people than that.
Who was the Fagers house car when you were in the late model?
Well, I don't think it was 71. I thought Kreiderman ran, Bob Tim was in one.
God, there was another guy. He ran a little bit of open stuff. I can't remember his name.
Well, somebody put it in the comments. It'll come to you. It'll come to you. Now, Bert, what do you got next?
The last one I have is Wayne Roofers. He raced in the late model division at Shawano Speedway in the 1970s and into the 1980s, and his 2 of his sons also raced, and after him, Chad Roofers began racing as a 16-year-old in the IMCA modified division. And have you heard of Luke Roofers?
I have.
Yes, I have. Luke Roofers would be his son. Luke raced modifieds and then late models in eastern Wisconsin, and then he got a job with Ganassi Racing, and moved down to the Carolinas to work for Ganassi Racing. But while down there, he still raced his late model, and he won some sort of series championship down in North Carolina. But so yeah, they're the sons of Wayne Roofers.
Awesome. So I got a text message today. So Jim, 2001 was Soda Street Stock national champion from over, and this, I don't think he had the 71, but the family did. Remember the street stocks built over in western Minnesota?
Not really.
The race star chassis.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Long family was very big into racing. Montevideo, Madison, Canby. So Brian Long actually raced stock cars, kind of like non-sanctioned, open type stuff, mostly at Monty, Madison, Canby. Remember the 00 Loopies car, the super stock down there? I think it was at Madison when we were down there. He ran in that car. And then his son Josh Long is running in the Wissota Street Stock division as well. And this family as a whole, so Danny Long actually built Race Star chassis. He owned that business, sold it. It's been sold a couple different times since. But Jason Long, a national champion in the Wissota Street Stock. So the Long family as a whole, a storied history. I think 3, maybe 4 generations of racers over in western Minnesota. So Lauren, of course, you know Lauren, he's kind of our right-hand guy. He's part of the Country Kitchen gang we'll talk about in a minute. But he sent me a pretty cool lineage, right? So over in Proctor, Superior, you know, the Twin Ports area, we all know Dale Carlson, right? Which is Kevin's dad. So yep. in this group of people, I believe there's 14 different racers tied in, okay? So Dale Carlson, of course, was 79, but his brother-in-law, Jim Christian, 71 or 710. I think he was 710, okay? His son, John Christian, also raced. So the Christians were 710, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So they ran in the street stock and the super stock division. Dale Carlson, his kid, Kevin Carlson, track champion a few years back in Rapids, races in the late model division. They're second cousins with the Hammett trio, who I think Matt Hammett still races. I don't know if they all still do, but 3 of them from Cloquet, they're tied into that family. Kevin's second cousin, Paul Carlson. Did you race against Paul Carlson?
Yep. I believe, well, we can get into that later too, but I believe we had a battle with him one night.
I think we did. And then his son, Lucas Carlson, actually, he won a bunch of races in the pure stock division. He had a pretty good career. He had 2 other brothers that raced as well. And then Paul's sister is married to Dan Follett, who raced. And Dan Follett's son, Dustin Follett, raced. So 14 people tied in. So kind of a crazy lineage there, but, you know, just another racing family. That just shows, you know, there's a lot of these little pocket lineages here. And it's kind of pretty cool to kind of look how they're tied together. So Lauren, thanks for that. I got one of probably my favorite 71 here, old Rudy Aho. So that my dad, one of his many numbers, number 71, champion over at the Grand Rapids Speedway one year. 6-cylinder division is kind of what he really thrived in. That class really took to him. Ran in the super stocks, ran a little bit in the modified division, and he's still involved. 73 years young, right? And I think he said, I'm gonna get my ass. No, he's older than that. He's older than that. He's probably gonna like me. I'm gonna get some good mail. He's actually 77, I think he is. So I should know that, but I don't know that. But he's still involved, right? So he helped in Hibbing, you know, for a number of years. He was a president there. He helps in Grand Rapids, gets all their sponsors, you know. So old Rudy Aho is still getting her done and still heavily involved with the sport. But I had a number 71 on all my cars as well, and got my right-hand man here, Bert. So all the national championships I had, he was the one turning wrenches. And Bert, I can tell you this much right now, never one time, not one time, did a freaking tire fall off on the racetrack when he was ever. I never had that happen. We talk about that. We're like, what the hell is wrong with these people? And you know, what did you say to that? You're like, there's 0 chance you would have had a tire fall off. Why is that?
No, I would go down there, I'd get the tires done, I'd put them on the car, let it down, I would torque them, I'd go up on the trailer, think to myself, damn it, did I torque the lug nuts? Go down there, check them again, go down, double check the air pressures. I mean, it was done 3 times before every race, guaranteed.
Yeah, I never had to worry about, a lot of people have pit guys and help and all that. It's like, if you have the right guy, you don't have to worry about any of that. You can focus on the track. And he wasn't always my pit guy, right? I didn't always have a good pit crew. Actually, I met him in Grand Rapids. Why don't you talk about how that all happened?
Well, me and my buddy Matt Sorensen, I don't remember if it was a Friday night and there was a rain out down in Superior, if it was a weekday special. I feel like it was a fair race or something. We decided to take a run up to Grand Rapids, and we're just walking through the pits to go watch. And, I hear someone yelling at me, hey, you, get over here. I need help. And I look over, and there's A-hole laying underneath a super stock trying to change a transmission. And back in them days, they would gear through the transmission. He's like, get under here, help me with this. And that was how we met.
Yeah, didn't even know him. I'm like, hey, you get over here. And I had a lot of stories like that. A lot of people can relate. I went to a lot of races by myself, and it was nothing for me to find somebody to help, and it ended up being him, and that worked out pretty well. We had a great career. So, Bert, do you have any questions? I told you Jim was going to be on here. Is there anything kind of bouncing around in your mind going, I'm kind of curious about this?
Well, one thing, Ryan's pretty passive on this show. He really doesn't let his emotions show at all. Were there any times when you had to help restrain Ryan to make sure that he didn't go to jail?
Well,
You're cutting out really bad. We can't hear you.
well, there's probably numerous amounts of times, but the one that I remember, I think him and I almost came to blows because he was going to get us kicked out of Wissota. He was so mad at someone just freaking out after getting taken out in a heat race or something and chasing someone across the pits when I had to pretty much pin him against a fence by his throat and calm him down. And there was probably words had between us, and we probably didn't talk for a day.
Yeah, we were a little heated back in the day, but usually, it was all passion. We were hungry. We wanted to win, and how many times, Jim, did we kind of have the conversation that racing ain't fun?
Oh, winning's fun.
Winning's fun, right? And people are like,
right.
well, racing's fun. No, we're here to win. We ain't here to race. That was kind of our mentality back then.
Ooh.
So he talks about me being feisty. I remember I was in the car, but didn't you almost lose a shoe one night?
Yeah, I did. World Outlaw Showdown at Cedar Lake. It's kind of, you've talked about on the show how you don't get many opportunities to go race and showcase your stuff in front of that many people. And, going down there expecting, it would go straight up from the heat races. And we got second in a heat race. And I want to say it was the Bowmeister, if I'm not mistaken. And, just pissed off after not winning the heat race. And, I think he probably chopped you to preserve the win. And I'm pissed off. And I don't know, I tried to kick a rock or something. Shoe probably flew over the fence. It was a bad deal. Embarrassed myself. And then it was redraw, and we ended up winning the damn show anyway,
Yeah, it worked out pretty good for us that night. So, any other questions there, Bert? I got a bunch. Go ahead.
Ryan traveled a lot, won a lot of races. I'm sure that he compensated you well for all your help.
Well, there was some really good compensation. There was usually a cooler full of Mountain Dew, an occasional cheddar brat, a couple of, bad words towards you, maybe. But
lots of frozen pizza.
All the compensation I needed was winning races. We shared the same hunger to just go out there and win.
Yeah, I probably have a couple of IOUs I should probably send you, but we'll worry about that later. So think about all the different things that we did at the track, right? And you don't see this stuff today. Remember changing engines at the track?
Well, it's happened a couple times. It's happened at the track. It's happened in hotel parking lots. It's, blow up in hot laps Proctor and change an engine to go try to get it ready for a heat race. And
yeah, nobody does that anymore. Now people, they're like, oh man, I broke something little. I'm going to load up. I'm done for the night. We'll try again next week. Well, all of that stuff, changing engines on during the night, was because we were trying to win the track championships.
Absolutely.
And now they don't seem to matter like they did. But what in your mind is the lack of passion towards track championships good or bad for the sport?
Well, it's awful because it takes away from the car counts at the local tracks on a given night. I mean, feel like people are more chasing big shows and kind of almost robbing your every week fans of a quality show. I mean, back in the day, I think our thing was, all right, we want to not just win a national championship, but we want that triple crown. We want to win 3 track championships too.
Right. Bert, anything come to mind when we talk about track championships?
How many track championships did you guys win?
I think I got 25 or 26 track championships. So yeah, we're pretty passionate. That's what we race for. I mean, when we raced, I mean, nothing against anybody else how they do it, right? But I always wanted to race for something. So racing to just race on that given night wasn't enough for us. We wanted to win the championship, the national points. I mean, how mad did we used to get? I mean, back in the day, there was 2B mains half the time in Superior and Hibbing for sure. And if we went out there in the heat and got second in the heat and got third in the feature, I mean, a lot of people would be happy. They're like 35 cars. We get second in the heat, third in the feature. We're like, this is a bunch of crap.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of a waste of a night. It's not a keeper. Move on, right?
57 and a sticker. That was kind of the thing. That's for sure. So, kind of looking at it here, what is some of your best memories in the super? We had a stint in the late model, a bit in the mod, but in the super stock, what sticks out to you is some of your favorite moments that we had?
Well, there's lots of them. Of course, that World Outlaws shoe kicking incident that night, ended up turning out to be all right. But my favorite one would probably be Deer Creek chasing down Don Eichens back-to-back nights from 12th to clinching our first national championship. That's the best one. I mean, you got Clinton Stacia coming all the way from Eldora to come and catch us win a national championship. The party in Sean Kelly's trailer. I mean, it was all good.
We kind of, I didn't really tie one on very often, but I think that night we did. And Don came down, celebrated with us. And I don't know if you had a hand in this, I should ask, but I woke up the next morning and there was duct tape burnt down the whole side of my trailer that said 2000 national champion. The whole trailer was duct tape. I know that was mostly Jeff Erickson. Did you have a hand in that too, or are you kind of an innocent party in that deal?
Quite honestly, this is the first I've even heard of it.
Oh, that was a bit.
The way I remember it, you and Missy disappeared and the rest of us partied.
Probably true. That's probably true. So, head games, right? So we're always racing for championships. We wanted to win, and we not only did we want to win, we wanted everybody to kind of have the mentality that like we're there to win and they're going to have to deal with us. What are some of the head game things that you can remember us doing, on the track, off the track, before the race, different things like that?
Oh my goodness. It's endless. I mean, I would play games with the guys. We'd have the local guys on a regular night. They'd walk over to our car, see which right rear tire you're running. They'd look, they'd see it. They go over to their car, bolt that on their car. I just for fun jump off the trailer and change it just to make them jump off the trailer and change it. We had fake lead weights that I would just randomly bolt in the dead middle of the car just to see if they would go bolt a 50-pound chunk of lead in the middle of the car. I mean, the old rod and reel was a fun one, with the point average days when one lap into the race, you got a yellow and you're pulling up next to the leader, revving it up and giving them the old rod and reel, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. It was good. I mean, you could go to the draw window and people are looking at the board and you're sitting good when the guys are back there and you can just stand behind them and they're like, yeah, I should get second or third in this one because that guy's in our race. I mean, it was, they were intimidated before the race even started half the time.
And, another thing we had fun with, I probably had more fun with it than you, but kind of both of us, is you were always my stick signal guy, and there was even tracks that are we don't allow them here. And we always found a way. I mean, everybody does. So Bert, just so you know, when tracks or series say we're banning stick signals, right? They do it anyway, right? They're going to find a different way to do it. So don't even ban it because it's just stupid. You're going to find a way to do it. But what are a couple memories that you have on the stick signals from a few of our races?
Well, I mean, the greatest feeling in the whole world, just spreading your arms as wide as you can. But by far and away. I mean, we had probably 2 seasons, but one summer where we battled hard in the super stocks with Mike Belfi, and it was every night they were 1-2, and it got to the point where he's just looking at my signals, trying to figure out what Ryan's going to do. So we're changing the signals up so they don't, he thinks it means this, but it means something else, and mess him up a little bit and win a race. It was a lot of fun.
Well, he kind of messed up and told us that he was onto our signals.
Right.
Like he shouldn't have did that. That was kind of a donkey award there for Mike Belfi, giving us that little heads up. Appreciate it though. But yeah, he told us that, so we're like, oh shit, because he was fast. He was like a legit,
he was awesome,
contender. He was really tough to beat. So yeah. Now I remember a specific time, Bert. We went down to Madison, and they were NASCAR, and they switched up, and they went Wissota for they had a firecracker 100 or firecracker 50. It was a 4th of July race, and it was like a midweek deal, and it was like their first stint at Wissota racing. And Jim came down there with me, and it turned out he wasn't real happy with me. What happened there?
Well, the way I remember, we went straight there from that 2000 to win show at Menominee, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Drove all the way to Madison, never been there before, didn't know what gear to run, went out, probably dominated them in the heat race, and had the wrong gear. I think we wound up changing them again, but old Ryan, he goes out for the feature and passes a guy for the lead, and I don't even remember what the guy's name was. He passes him for the lead, and then he rolls out of the throttle and lets the guy pass him back, and then he gets back in the throttle. He passes him on the bottom, passes him on the top, probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times before I'm flipping him off down there, knowing that he's just jacking around. And I was mad. I'm like, God, we didn't come all the way to Madison from Menominee to come here for you to get a tire speared,
He's giving me signals, Bert, and they turn out from this to this to like this to like this. And I come in the pits, and if he could have swung at me there, I probably had it coming. He was not happy. And yeah, that we kind of played with that guy, and then we put it in kill mode and we just drove away. But that was fun. Madison was a really fast racetrack. I mean, think about you lived in Proctor or Duluth, I guess West Duluth at the time, but hour and 15 minutes, 20 minutes to come up to Chisholm, a lot of nights in the shop, and nowadays, and nothing against it, things have changed, I get it, but nowadays people buy cars and they get the setup book with it, and they just kind of do what the setup book says. Is that how we did it?
I think we had to build our own setup book. I mean, it was, when I first came around, we had good stuff, won like 20 features, and we're pretty successful. And I think we came out the next year thinking we were going to win a national championship, and we were kind of behind Brady Smith, and our car didn't pivot near as good as his. And I think we spent endless hours on the scales and cutting things up and trying to make the car, get enough left side and get enough left front weight to make it pivot as well as his did.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time there. And, speaking of that, right, he always told me, Bert, and did this happen in the MJ pit? Did MJ ever come in and then the pit guy's like, the car's doing this, like, you got to fix it, and MJ's like, no, it's not, it's doing this? Did that ever, them conversations ever happen that you can recall?
I was never too involved with the setup of the race car, but I mean, MJ pretty much had, there's just a couple of people who he talked to about setup. Everybody kind of had, their own little duties, and there's only a small group that was involved in the setup of the car.
Yeah, we had them conversations daily, and it usually went like this: you're tight in the middle. I'm like, you're an idiot. I'm not tight in the middle. You know what the hell you're talking about. He goes, you're tight in the middle. I can see it. I'm watching it. You need to get the car to rotate. I'm like, the car, we just won. Like, what are you talking about? It wasn't until we started getting videotaped and looking at the tapes, and I'd be like, oh shit, you're right. Hey, we're tight in the middle. I've been telling you that for how many years? And so drivers, if you're out there and you're thinking, my pit guy's always telling me something, he's probably seeing something that you can't feel. What's your thoughts on that, Jim? What's your memories on them deals?
We went to a Masters built racing school back in the day, and Keith Masters stood there and said the same thing, told us that. He goes, the drivers are dumb. They only remember the last thing that happened to them. He goes, the car's loose off the corner. Well, it's probably loose off the corner because they had to jack it into the corner because it was too tight getting in. There's a reason. And they only remember the last thing.
Yeah, that's exactly true. I can't tell you how many times I see that, and I'm maybe helping somebody on the phone and the exact same thing's happening. So late model stint, we won a national championship. We got second. We'll talk about that. We won the Natty, right? Our first national championship, beat out Ishans. The next year we get second. Is there anything that sticks out from that year that maybe leaves a little bad taste in your mouth, or that you're, kind of the one that got away, so to speak?
If I'm being honest, I don't even hardly remember getting second. I just blocked that out of my mind altogether. If I remember right, and I could be wrong, I think we had a disaster at the Northern Nationals where a rear end may have gotten ripped out of the car. Is that the year with Murado at the Northern Nationals?
Yep.
Leading? Was that the same year as the Minnesota 100 leading that we got wrecked?
No, that was 04. That was 04.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember having some late years, probably having to go to some tracks you didn't want to have to go to race, chasing racing instead of racing for money and racing for fun,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the end of the year deal at Superior rained out. They were supposed to have the race of champions deal.
Yes,
we won the heat. Ishans didn't even make the show. We had to go to the B. We're outside pole and it freaking snowed, Bert. And it's like,
oh my goodness.
Shit. That was,
remember that, yeah.
That, and I begged them. I'm like, I'll race for free. Like, I just want to race. Like, that's all I want. I just want to race. But then we made the jump over into the late model division, and I'll be honest, like, we didn't know much. We didn't even know what we didn't know when we got into the late model division, but we had some pretty good runs in there. What sticks out to you from our late model days?
Well, what sticks out to me now is it came back to me. The house car was Jeff Wildung.
Yes.
What did he wear? What do you have, a 50 or something, maybe?
Yep.
Well, I mean, right away at the beginning of the year, piling up the car and wrecking it and having to go back to Fagers and rebuild the thing. Go down to Deer Creek, the thing won't even run, and Dave Adams is there trying to help us get it running. But then, had some help from some guys that, taught us a little bit more than what we knew, and we were pretty strong in Hibbing. We could win races up there where it was slow and you didn't need 625 horse at the time. We had a pretty good grasp on a dry racetrack, and there was, I don't remember if it was the first year or the second year, we had a WDRL race where we performed pretty darn well, and had like 4 wheels, 4 tires, and we had a brand new tire, but we didn't have time to, groove it, sipe it, mount it, and get it on for the feature. And
hey, we actually started in the front row in the heat race next to Bert's Eastern Wisconsin guy, Pete Parker, in that deal, and won the heat. I remember Steve Lokes, he said, because we had an underpowered Wasota motor. He's like, you win the heat, they'll buy you 2 tires tonight. And all right, fair enough, right? We go out there, we win the heat. We beat Pete Parker. We win the heat at the WDRL deal. We get 2 tires, and we only had 4 wheels, the 4 that were on the car. So we didn't have time to even put them on. So that was definitely interesting.
The best part about that one was the next day we went to Ashland for a race, and we pitted next to Brady Smith, and I got to pull that thing off the car, show him this tire down to the cords that beat him the night before.
Yeah, he shook his head like, I wouldn't have ran that. But yeah, he has some pretty good funding behind him, but probably attitude probably helped with that. I was a little bit more feisty than he was. So what was your favorite? My favorite moment was at Cedar Lake. I mean, in the late model, Tony Stewart night. Remember that night?
How could I forget? It was AO driving through the infield, spinning out Tony Stewart because Hesslink was in the way. Stewart throwing his helmet at Hesslink, if I remember right.
Gloves.
Oh, was it gloves? All right. Yep. 3 wide to the finish with Eggersdorf and Dorr. We win the race, and they give us second or third. I mean,
we ended up getting second in that one. I wish I.
That's the first time I've ever heard that the flag stand isn't the finish line. It's actually, somewhere where you weren't in the lead because you're not from here.
He's still bitter about that. That was probably our best run ever, and it was a second, but it was a fun time. And then a couple more things here. outside of racing, Proctor, I always considered Proctor my home track. I love that place, but we had a tradition, like, and it was a big deal. Like, there was a bunch of us. I mean, what was the tradition that we had every Sunday night for 20 years in Proctor?
Well, it was a whole big group of us. Obviously me and you and your crew and Clinton, Chad and Lauren and Flex and God knows a whole bunch of people, Laux and Ron and Jackie, and we'd go out to Proctor Country Kitchen after the races, and God, it was loud and rowdy, and we raised a whole bunch of trouble.
Bert, we were that was like, we were our locals. We had our own deal called the Racers Special and all that. But I remember I won the feature one night, and Jim decided he's going to dump a cooler over my head because it must have been a big special or whatever. So we get parked there. It was we won the championship. I think that was the night we had to change motors, and we won the championship. And I walk in that place with remember them silver sprayers, those spray bottles?
Yeah, fire extinguishers. Yeah.
I walked right into that place, and I completely douched everybody with water inside Country Kitchen. Okay? That would not be allowed today, but we were like regulars there. Once that place closed down, I quit racing. I just was no longer interested because food mattered a lot. And speaking of food, one last thing here, and then if you have any closing thoughts, but for the people racing today getting started, what makes you slow?
Well, rumor has it, there's a few things that make you slow, but as far as food's concerned, I mean, you don't ever eat a mushroom. I mean, if you ever want to go backwards, just eat a mushroom.
Yep, for sure. Now there's a couple other things. I'm kind of trying to pull something out of here. Name 3-4 things that come to mind that we always said. Wait, not we. You said, and hey, I had to listen to the crew chief. This, and this make you slow.
Oh, obviously we said mushrooms. Red race cars, slow. White's probably even slow. Drinking, that makes you slow. That's about all I got. Oh, cuddling for sure. Yeah.
We're going to talk more about that in a minute because there's a couple of guys out there that may be a little too domesticated to be competing at a high level that are doing a lot more cuddling than prep work in their race shops. Bert, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But with that said, any other things that come to mind before we jump on to the next segment? It's been fun kind of reminiscing here and kind of bringing back a few memories, but anything else that comes to mind before we move on?
Well, just one thing. I was getting a few text messages before we did this from, I believe it was G.O.A.T, right?
Yeah, Jeff, and I think it was probably Jeff texting.
Was it Jeff?
Yeah.
All right. Just, so I just wanted to give a shout out to the, the double bubble days and all of that. And, tell them guys hello.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we had some good times. Well, I mean, do you remember the days we'd get done racing the Wasota Classic? Labor Day Shootout was our big deal. We'd have the old body on for the Friday deal, and we'd come home 3:00 race time. What would we do after the races Friday night with a 3:00 start time? What would we do that night before Labor Day Shootout?
Come home, tear the body off, put a brand new body on, nut and bolt the whole car. I mean, scale it. Everything. I mean, complete top to bottom maintenance, usually ended sometime around 8 in. Sun was always up. It was awful. It was awful, but we always looked good for day one of Labor Day before you tore the thing up.
Yeah, true. That's fair enough. So, I tell you what, man, we got to do this again. It was fun having you on here, reminiscing back some old 71A days. But Jim McClellan, Bert, that was my right-hand man for many, many years. I had lots of great people that helped me, but he was probably the one that stuck out the most. So, Jim, thanks for jumping on, and we'll move on to the rest of the show here.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
10th annual Cajun Clash USMTS Modifieds. They had 3 nights of racing down at Vivian, Louisiana. But first, quick shout out, Brad Parson, Ag Solutions. The snow is going to melt. I promise it's going to happen. Okay. And all you farmers in western Minnesota, North South Dakota, you're going to have to get crops in the ground. You're going to have to fertilize. You're going to have to get the right stuff, the right chemicals in your spray packages. Great results. If you're looking for high yields, if you're looking for high I guess, high profitability, because that's what you're trying to make money farming. Heard the rumors, right? If you're trying to do that, get the right stuff. Give Brad a call, 320-219-3542, and he'll take good care of you. For racers, by racers, Ag Solutions from Brad Parson. So, little quick recap. I'll just give a quick recap. Thursday night, the Thriller Cade Dillard parked in Victory Lane. Jim Chisholm second. A little bit of drama there. We'll get into that in a second. Friday night, Caden Carter parks in Victory Lane. Hell of a run from Tom Berry Jr., 14th to 2nd. And Saturday night, Tyler Wolf got it done in the MB. Chris Hennigan, kind of a local guy down there, he got 2nd. Dan Ebert, guy that was battling for the point, well, he had a rough week, Bert. He had a flat, then he got in a crash. It wasn't his fault. He just got caught up in something, took a pretty bad hit, took the lethal out on night 3, parked it 5th place on, so kind of salvaged the weekend. Kind of keeping an eye on him because he's our local guy. We want him to run good. We want him to win the points. He's our Minnesota guy, right? No Jake Tim. Were you surprised that he opted to go race the late model at the Lucas Oil MLRA rather than running the modified down at the USMTS show?
Well, he usually races every MLRA race at Wheatland, but I mean, obviously, this means he's not running for the championship in USMTS. I mean, that's the only thing that surprises me is that he's not going to run for the championship in that series.
Yeah, the second week wasn't very good, but he started out. He won night number 2, was point leader after the first 2 nights. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed. Shout out here, night number 1. First of all, did you watch any of these features? Did you get a chance to see them?
I did not watch any of the features.
Okay, so night number 1, local kid Tate Hansen from over in central Minnesota, New London, I think, or Spicer, kind of by the Wilmer area, started 4th in his heat. Bert won the heat. When I saw he won his heat, I'll be honest with you, I looked at it, I'm like, I must start it on the pole. He did not. Started 4th. Nobody in his heat. Rodney Sanders, Terry Phillips, nobody good. Just kidding. They're both great, right? But impressive run. He looked really dicey. And in Salvador, you got a 10th place finish, which I think that's his best career finish with the USMTS. So a shout out there, Tate Hansen, with a solid night number 1. Night 2, night 3, not so good, but there's 60 cars down there. There's a lot of good race cars to finish in the top 10, win a heat. That's a momentum builder. Hopefully he can build on that. Night number 1, Rodney Sanders, who had been struggling, right? Talk about cuddling. Got married a couple years ago, got a kid, he's domesticated, kind of slowed down. I don't know if that's why. We'll find out, right? But the fact of the matter is, he was struggling. He had a really good run here last week, 30th, I think, to 4th. Now he's battling for the lead. He's in 2nd. They're in lap traffic. He's looking dicey. Gets together with a lapper.
I did see this clip that you had sent me.
Yeah, so they get together. He ends up spinning off the top at turn number 3. Rodney Sanders to the back. Tough break for him. What's your thought when you saw that?
I mean, I don't think the lapper did anything wrong. It was just a racing deal. He was trying to get on the outside of the lap. I mean, as from what I can tell from when I watched it, the lapper kept his line. He didn't deviate or anything. So
I think he breathed up a little bit, but it wasn't like a sudden move or anything. You're right. It's a racing deal. And we had to watch that in super, super, super slow motion to even see what happened there. Because initially watching it, it just looks like he kind of went off the top of 3, watching it on the phone. But Jim Chisholm got to the inside of the lapper. The lapper breathed up, not a lot of room there, and they literally just touched tires. I mean, it was so minor, but enough to kind of send him off the track. He was done. Very much impossible to make any call other than what they did. I mean, it sucks. I mean, Rodney Sanders certainly didn't just drive off the track by himself. Impossible to make that call in real time. There's just no way. And, the lapper probably kind of looked and he's like, hey, I got a guy to the inside. I'm going to kind of give him just a hint of room. And there's Rodney on the outside. that happened to me one time. I was racing John Seitz for the lead in Bemidji, and we went to go around a guy, local guy there, and we got to move over flag. He saw John on the inside, so boom, he did move up and he clipped me, and I hit the wall wide open in the front straightaway. Wasn't that bad, but just kind of a racing deal. Tough break for Rocket Rodney there. Best race of the weekend there, night number 2. Tom Berry Jr. is going to be a force. He's everybody talks, IMCA. That IMCA sucks. This dude's he's legit. He's an IMCA guy, jumped into the USMTS ranks, and I'm telling you what, this guy already has a win, right? Already has a win, and 14th to 2nd, and he was hunting at the end of that one. So that's on Racing Dirt. You can catch that. Probably worth a watch if you like modified racing. Jump on Racing Dirt and check that out. And then Saturday,
hey, I have a question for you. Just came into my mind. Now you said, IMCA, he's just an IMCA racer. In your opinion, you've raced mods. Would it be more difficult to jump from IMCA to USMTS, or to go from USMTS to IMCA? And what I'm asking is because with IMCA, I mean, everybody describes their tires as hockey pucks. And I mean, obviously, you have the power difference with the engines. But to go from hockey puck tires, wouldn't that be an easier transition to go from hockey puck tires to USMTS with better tires and going from better tires to worse tires?
Maybe, because you're going from IMCA to USMTS, so you're getting better grip, right, with that American racer compared to the Hoosier G60, but you have way more power, right? So you have more power, and you have a blade. You got the blade on the back. I think IMCA doesn't have a spoiler, right? I think they don't have a spoiler.
Well, IMCA has a small blade if they run the crate engine. Okay.
So a small blade for the crate, and I think it's a 6-inch blade or 7 or so. It's a lot bigger blade on the US MTS card.
Right.
On the flip side, when you're going from that to a smaller blade with harder tires, and it's more of a momentum. I mean, they're all kind of momentum deals now. Kind of a horse apiece, right? But the one thing I've heard is this. I don't care if it's UMP, IMCA, WISSOTA, USMTS. There is some really, really good modified drivers in all of these divisions. I mean, I would, if I was able to win the lottery and just kind of make one decision in regards to like classes in racing, it would be to take the modified division and be like, okay, we're taking a little from you and a little from you and a little from you, and we're going to make one modified class and get rid of all these 872 sanctions. That would be amazing. But who am I? Just a dumbass talking on a podcast. No big deal. All right. So 7 races in USMTS action. Jason Hughes, point leader right now, TP second. 7 races in, Bert. If you had to guess, I don't know if you already seen this. No, but how many? So I had one of our 3 bold predictions a while back, because I was going to say three different chassis builders going to win down at that one, I think Humboldt or whatever. So there's been 7 races ran right now. How many different chassis builders would you say are represented in the 7? Over or under 4?
Right now, I mean, that the actual winners right now, just because you're leading me on, I'll say over.
Okay, what number would you go with?
I would say 5.
7.
Okay.
Tom Berry Jr. in a Harris, Jake Tim in a Rage, TP in a Bloodline, Ebert in his Mullins, Cade Dillard in his CDR, Caden Carter in the Vanderbilt, and Tyler Wolf in the MB Customs. Talk about parity. That is parity right there. So it'll be interesting to see which one of those chassis builders can double up first. Because remember, Jake O'Neill, he still ain't won a feature, right? He ain't won one yet. That's a different chassis. You think he's going to win one? I would have to say he's going to win one. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So USMTS red hot right now. That's been a great series. Little fan feedback, little shout out here, buyraceshirts.com. Racing season right around the corner. You need apparel, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, you name it. Buyraceshirts.com. They can fulfill all your needs. Low budget, high budget, big quantity, low quantity, simple, super extravagant, you name it, they can do it. Check them out, buyraceshirts.com. So Josh sent me a couple just a quick feedback deals here, Bert, and I'm going to ask you a question on this. So is there a certain breakdown on at Shawano, big half mile track, like between 2, 3, 4 heats? Like, do you know if there's a certain breakdown they have to have in order to transition, say, from 2 heats to 3 heats and so on?
I'm sure the IMCA rules for the IMCA division stipulate as to how many cars are in a heat. I'm not sure what they are, and I'm not I'm not positive on that.
So let's say this big half mile track over there in Shawano, 18 cars. What's your thoughts on 3 heat races for 18 cars?
I think that's too many. Yeah.
That's a snoozer, right? He said that's a pet peeve of his, and I gotta agree. He goes, what? And I get it. Some of these tracks are trying to film the program because they don't have no car count or whatever. But he said one of my biggest pet peeves is why on earth are some of these tracks, when they have 18 cars running 3 freaking heat races, there ain't one person in the grandstands that wants to watch a 6-car heat. It does not happen. They're not entertaining. And Hibbing used to have a rule, I don't know if they still do, that it was 2 heats until you got to 21, right? And then it would go to 3 heats. And I belly ached about that for years because there was points, right, in heat races. It wasn't just feature points. And if I drew like last and I was going to start 10th in the heat, man, I fought tooth and nail. And like, we need to have 3 heats. What are we doing? Because I wanted to start a little further forward than 10th. But now there's no more track points in or any kind of points in heat races. So let's get back to the little bit bigger heats here. It makes no sense to have 3 heats. The other thing he said, and this is a good idea, a little feedback. He said, you know, we've talked about it a number of times. The only person that disagrees is Puka. 3-hour window is about perfect. Little shy of that even might be better, right? But instead of running 6, 7 classes like some tracks do on a regular night, he goes, racers today, you know, if you want to keep your family dynamic together, right? It's nice to have a night or 2 off. Why not alternate classes, right? Give every class a couple nights off during the year. So if they want to go do something different or hit a different rate, they can. And I think that's a good idea to do. I've seen that done at tracks with some success. So let's jump into World of Outlaw sprint car action. They ran down at Devil's Bowl, Mesquite, Texas. But first, Bert, quick shout out, Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants, okay? Founder of this company, Nassau Hall of Fame for lubricants. He knows what he's talking about. So they have multiple different products. They have oil lubricants. They have stuff that can go in your gear oil. They have lots of different stuff, but their main product right now, Bert, is tire treatment. They have a cleaner that gets all the release agents out of your tires. And then they have some treatments that help liven your tires back up. They don't recommend necessarily putting it on a brand new tire. They said you don't really need to. But for night 2, night 3, night 4, I talked to a pretty prominent Midwest mod driver, Bert, and he said, I ran my tires 2 nights, 1 or 2 nights, but typically 2 nights. And that was, you know, if you ran 6 nights, he had a couple different right rears on, couple different left rears, right fronts. And he said, if I could run an extra night or 2 on my tires, that would be a big deal because they don't pay very good. So if there's a product out there that allows you to get more life out of your tires and keep money in your pocket, is that a good deal? That's what Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants has to offer. And I don't have his number here. I should have written it down. Sorry, Chad, and I'll put it in the comments, okay? But Dirt Track Supply has this product. TRE has this product. But if you're just wondering, like, all right, is this softener? Is this treatment? What does this even mean? How does it work? If you want some info, right, get a hold of Chad. In fact, I'm going to look that up right now. All right, here we go. So write this number down, 507-828-3536. So that is Chad. And if you're looking for a little information on this product, just to get educated, see what it can do for your race team, he is the guy to call. So get a hold of him. So World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, Bert, they ran pair of nights down at Devil's Bowl Speedway in Mesquite, Texas. Did you watch the highlights from the World of Outlaws?
Yes, I did watch the features.
What stuck out to you other than it was not overly exciting?
Well, Brad Sweet won a race.
He did. Big
And
Cat.
then-
That was 2 in a row. That was 2 in a row for the Big Cat, Brad Sweet, your 4-time defending back-to-back champion.
I know how to end that.
Yeah, Bert picks him, he's done. So
I haven't been picking him, so now he's winning. And then James McFadden won the other one.
yeah,
So,
J-Mac got her done. Bert Gravel got 4th both nights. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Bad beat right there. Gravel leading the points, Sweet second, Macedo and rookie Buddy Colfoyd in the 4th spot. So pretty good action. So as far as sprint car racing goes, do you have what's your biggest surprise or biggest disappointment thus far in the World of Outlaw sprint cars?
Well, I mean, Colfoyle has a win and he finished second to one of the races this past weekend. So, I mean, he's off to a really good start this year. I would say he's kind of I don't know if you want to say unexpected, but he's a driver that's finishing near the top that's not a household name. And you don't hear Donnie Schatz's name too often.
He's kind of consistent. He's there, but he hasn't really competed so much for a win yet. I don't know if that hunger factor is there. I mean, he's always hungry. He wants to win, but boy, he's done it. I mean, the guy has to wonder how much longer is old Donnie Schatz going to do it, And
actually, another name you really you don't hear running near the front is Hodenschild.
That's the one I have, old Buggy Bobby himself. So Sheldon Hodenschild, there's been 12 races. He's competed in 12 races. He's got 1 podium, and it was a 3rd, and then he has a 4th. Boy, he was hot here the last couple of years, but he's really, really faded. And we'll see if maybe, I don't know what the deal is there. We'll see if he can turn that around. So Sheldon Hodenschild, a guy that he needs a little bit of a cushion to kind of bang on. So maybe that's the problem. We'll see if that happens. So no high rollers, right? So they got what is that what it's called? The high roller series, or what's that? What's Kyle Larson's series called? For the sprint cars.
I'm not sure what it's called.
I should have written that down. Donkey award to my dumb ass for not having that written down. I should. But here's a question. Okay. So the World of Outlaws has some different rules in place. Okay. And here's kind of the particulars. I got this from a friend of mine. He commented on a post I was on Facebook and kind of laid out the details. So how the World of Outlaws, if you're a contracted driver with the World of Outlaws, you can miss 4 or 8 shows. So you can miss 4, not miss.
I was going to say it's not miss.
Not miss. You can race 4 non-World of Outlaw sanctioned events and still be eligible for end of the year point fund money. And you can race 8, right? 8, you can race 8 of them and still be eligible, but only 4 for your exclusivity bonus. Okay. So you can race 8 additional shows outside of the World of Outlaws and still get your point fund money. You can race 4 other shows outside of the World of Outlaws sanctioned events and get your exclusivity bonus. It's bonus money at the end of the year. This means, right? So this series that Kyle Larson is putting on for the sprint cars, it kind of doing what trying to do what the Castro Flow Racing Night in America did, to where they're piggybacking off events. They're doing weekday stuff and not really running. They're not running against the World of Outlaws, but they're running either in conjunction or just totally unrelated to them. The World of Outlaw drivers, the drivers that are contracted, they can't follow that series, even though it does not go on top of any of the World of Outlaw races. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, obviously the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series can do whatever they want to do. I mean, it's a free country, it's capitalism, you know, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, from a fan's perspective, it's not. I mean, can you imagine if they did that for late models? World of Outlaw late model drivers couldn't race in more, couldn't race in more than 8 other shows other than World. I mean,
no, I can't imagine living in that world. I cannot.
I mean, that would be, granted, there's a lot more late models out there than there are sprint cars. Well, which actually makes things worse because there's less cars to pull from. So you're limiting the potential of what these other shows can be, and who that hurts is the fans. But I mean, it also hurts the drivers because I'm sure these shows have some fairly decent purses. I mean, if Kyle Larson's behind it, it's got to be some decent purses for these shows, and the drivers aren't going to be able to race in all of them.
Yeah, so I put a lot of thought into this, right? And I kind of I'm looking at it from 2 different perspectives. At first, I'm like, this is a bunch of crap. They're hijacking their drivers. They're not letting them race other stuff. This is completely nonsense. Drivers should be able to race wherever the hell they want to, right? And this is absolutely terrible that they're not letting them. And quite honestly, most of the contracted drivers are only going to do the 4 because they want that extra money, that exclusivity money at the end of the year. There's the Eldora Million. That's going to be 2 of them right there. And then that high rollers, or the high limit series is what it is. They have 250,000 to win race, one of them here in a couple of weeks. So that'll probably be the 4. So they can't run any other shows other than those 4 all year long. So just the World of Outlaws. No, they do have a pretty full schedule. So I'm like, boy, that sucks. Like if track A, B, or C decided, hey, I want to have another 50 grand to win sprint car race, none of the World of Outlaw drivers would be able to attend that race. That sucks. But let's look at it from the other perspective. The other perspective is, when you think World of Outlaws, what do you think? What comes to mind first? For most people, maybe not you, you're a late model guy, but for most people, when you say World of Outlaws, what do you think about?
Well, I mean, like you said, I think late models, but yeah, I mean,
think about it this way, they're protecting their brand also.
Oh,
right. So if you're a track that you're like, you know what, hey, we're going to have a World of Outlaw sprint car show, but then your neighboring track has essentially a non-sanctioned show and all the same cars are there. Well, why the hell would you have a World of Outlaw show and pay more money? You don't really need to do that. So by them doing this, right, wrong, or indifferent, their perspective on it is, we're protecting our brand, and they're protecting the tracks that are scheduling World of Outlaw sanctioned events. Because, you take late models, I mean, who knows where half these late model guys end up? They could be at a Lucas Oil MLRA race, it could be an XR race, it could be at a Mars Series race, they could be at a non-sanctioned race. Be like, well, I can see these guys everywhere. The World of Outlaw guys, you can't see them everywhere. You see them at World of Outlaw races. So I guess I can kind of see both things. So Jeff sent over a quick trivia question before we jump off sprints. 1978, first sanctioned World of Outlaw sprint car event. Do you know where that was?
Cedar Lake.
Devil's Bowl Speedway. Come on, I made that too easy for you. Devil's Bowl Speedway, Mesquite, Texas. So that's where it all started. Jimmy Boyd won that feature. So let's jump on over to late models. Star-studded late model field at the Lucas Oil MLRA opener down at Wheatland at the Lucas Oil Speedway. Friday, the 20 RT. Ricky Thornton Jr., he beat out Bobby Pierce, and Jonathan Davenport got 3rd. Good run that night there, Bert, for rookie Dylan McCown. He won the heat. He actually beat old Bobby Pierce off the front row. Had a really, really good heat race there. 5th in the feature. He's a stud. He's a stud in the mod guy, Bert. Another mod guy. Another fast mod guy in the late models right there. Saturday, old Superman got it done. Beat out the 25, Chad Stimson and Garrett Elberson. Sorensen blew up He had the 28 down there, ran both cars, blew up in the late model. Jake Tim, who was off to a pretty good start in the modified, didn't make the feature either night. Rough weekend for Jake Tim down there. Probably should have stuck with the USMTS. Hindsight 2020. Hopefully he can rebound. And old Brandon Shepard, Bert, another DNQ for Brandon Shepard. He's on the Rumley. Rumley's helping him now. He's on Bilstein's, right? Is he the slowest Longhorn out there on Bilstein's with Rumley help? Is he the slowest one? What's the deal there?
I don't know what the deal is. I mean, obviously, racing is a lot different when you're in charge of your own program. You know, you don't have to, you have to worry about expenses. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's not like he's lost talent. It's, obviously it's with the cars, setups or whatever. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to take to turn it around.
We talked about this at the end of our little segment there with Jim. Okay, name off the things that you can think of that make you slow. This is a quiz. This is a quiz. Mushrooms. Okay, what else? What else makes you slow?
Beer, cuddling.
Dude, Brandon Shepard's domesticated, right? He's got another kid. He moved home. They're out doing all this family stuff together. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Okay, like it's good to be a family guy. Brandon Shepard's a good dude. I'm a big Brandon Shepard fan. I think he's a good human being, hell of a race car driver. But think about this, right? Fighters. You ever hear of the thing where fighters they like don't get no loving like a day or two right before a fight because it slows them down and they get soft? He's coddling too much, Bert. He's coddling too much. You're gonna have to pick. Little less cuddling, little more winning. If you're happy with not winning, keep on cuddling. That's all fine and good. Just a theory. Don't shoot the messenger. Just a theory. Reckless speculation here, Bert, as they say on one of my favorite shows, Purple Daily. Okay, so that right there, late model action was good, but that wasn't the big drama. Bert, big drama. USRA stock cars were in attendance. USRA B mods, they had modifies, but the drama, right? Stock car feature and the B mod feature. I'm going to set it up. I'll tell everybody what happened. Okay. If you haven't seen it, it's on Flow Racing, and you can actually, if you're watching this, I'll post a little clip here. So at the end of the stock car feature, I don't remember the guy's name that won, but needless to say, the second place car, we won't put names on this one. The second place car, when the white flag came out, literally, he was racing hard. He got inside the leader, got into his left rear again, coming for the checkered, kind of spun himself out. They go across the line. The guy wins. At the end of that, all hell breaks loose, right? He literally catches up to the leader, and I don't know if he gestured him or if he just drove by him, but the guy that won the race gave him a little shot in the left rear, and he didn't really take too kindly to that because as soon as he got that shot in the left rear, he took hard left and absolutely just land blasted the winner. And then he actually went on the front straightaway while they're putting the victory lane stuff out on the track and literally spun out the winner in the middle of the front straightaway, right?
Wow.
Needless to say, here's what happened. They went on and the guy that did all that spun him out afterwards, right on the front straightaway, that guy got a $500 fine, 14-day suspension from all USRA events, 1 year probation, and he lost in a loss of all points accumulated for everything related to that up to this point. Let's start there. What's your thoughts on that? Did USRA make the right call, the wrong call, drop the ball? What's your thoughts?
I don't disagree with the call because the driver did excessively push him down the front straightaway when there were safety crew and others walking on the front stretch, down on the lower part of the front stretch. So I don't have a problem with the punishment. I am going to give a donkey award to a driver, but not necessarily the driver you think that I would give it to.
All right. What do we got?
I'm giving the donkey award to the driver who actually won the race.
I'm with you. Why?
Did you watch his interview after the race?
I did.
And he was whining about how he got hit in the left rear in 4. And it's like, yeah, there was contact, but it was not excessive. He needs to go watch Days of Thunder. And what do they say in Days of Thunder? Rubbin's racing.
Amen. And add to the fact, right? I should give a donkey award to USRA. Old Todd Staley. Come on, guy. What are you doing? Right? This guy here that won the race literally made the initial post-race contact.
Right. Exactly.
So
exactly.
He hit the guy first, right? You won the race and then you drive into him after the race. It's like, and he didn't get, so it's crazy, right? Because he started the deal. The other guy did because he ran into him a couple times racing for the lead. But then after the race, he drove into the guy first. That should have been automatic. Yeah. You're disqualified. But the other guy way overdid it. Like he really got it. But if you're gonna suspend and penalize one, you got to do both, right? Especially when he was in victory lane, Bert, and he basically said, "Well, I was sick of him hit me in the left rear, so I took care of it." Oh, you did now? Did you now? Right? Well, in the Midwest Mod or the B Mod, USRA B Mod race, a similar, not necessarily the post-race antics, but there was
sorry for the jump, but we're having a thunderstorm here, and it just thundered.
Bert in panic mode. He's sitting there like thinking, I thought maybe that guy that you just gave a donkey award was behind your shoulder ready to throw down or something. I'm not sure what happened there. So in the B Mod feature, in the closing laps, there was a 3-way battle for the lead. And we talked about K-Jack a little bit. He's been really, really good in the B mods. Well, I don't know all the other names. I just know that guy. But there was K-Jack was up top and a guy poked the middle and really drove it in hard and slid up and kind of doored him with the right rear quarter panel. And when that happened, K-Jack turned left and literally the third place car got inside and they all piled up getting into the next corner, spun themselves out. They put the middle guy to the back. Probably initially it looked like the right call.
Well, before you go on, I watched that initially and then I rewatched it a couple of times and I never even knew that he turned to the left because the car in the middle went way high coming out of 4 and got into him. And then there was a car inside of the middle guy. So I just assumed that the cars had nowhere else to go and they just kind of all came together. I didn't know that he turned left down into him.
100%. That's exactly what I thought too. When I first saw that, I'm like, that guy just drove right up into him with the right rear to him, caused a big melee and nobody lifted. And next thing you know, all hell broke loose. After the race in victory lane, Chris Jackson literally says, the guy's like, well, what happened down there? He goes, well, there's a couple drivers and, we'll play you can listen to the.
I wish I could say I hate it, but there's 2 or 3 people I race with that I've said the next time they make contact with me, I'm driving over them. And I took care of that one tonight. I pushed way up off the racetrack and he was going to pinch me off in the wall. So I just hung a left and he got the short end of the stick. Hate it for him. We'll go on to next week.
But he basically said, there's a couple people I'm sick of them driving. So when he came up and made contact, I turned hard left and I took care of it. Like literally fled flat out. Like, I don't regret it. And he's up there, like kind of making gestures and doing all kinds of stuff. Like he's basically proud of the fact that he like took care of business, wrecked that guy. Now, had they just watched that, right? Like you and I did, we would have been like, okay, no harm, no foul. I guess racing deal happened. In victory lane, he said that the next day, USRA and Lucas Oil Speedway officials decided that because he admitted in victory lane that he flat out wrecked the guy on purpose and caused all that stuff, they disqualified him. They gave him a $500 fine, a 2-week USRA. Now keep in mind, he's the USRA B-Mod national point leader right now. Okay. But he keeps his points. He didn't lose his points, but he got a $500 fine, 2-week suspension, and a 1-year probation from USRA. Dumbass of the week, Chris Jackson. Like, if you're gonna do something like that, which I'm all for it. You're sick of somebody and they're running India, hit them back. I'm all good. But we're in today's world, you can't say that, right? We just Hamlin had that deal.
I was just gonna say this is a Denny Hamlin thing, just on the dirt track scene.
Is there, in your mind, a statute of limitations? So let me give you a hypothetical, right? Let's say we're racing, we're battling it out, and deal like that happens, and I kind of fancy or whatever. I make it look like it's not intentional, but I garbage you. And this is in April, and then end of July, right? I'm on a podcast or something, and I'm like, I took care of business. That guy's a dumbass. You saw what I did to him back in April? Did that on purpose. Did it intentional. Guy's pissing me off. I wrecked him. He ain't hit me since. Is there a statute of limitations where sanctioning bodies can be like, oh, wait a second here now? Like, we're going to, is it a day? Is it a week? Is it a month? What is there a statute of limitations on that?
There would almost have to be. I mean, theoretically, it would have to be like in football. Once the next play goes on, you can't review it. Once the next race for that sanctioning body goes on, you can't go back, because if they use points to do lineups and all that other stuff, you can't go back and redo all that.
I agree. So racers, I wasn't very good at this, the keeping your mouth shut deal. It's still really am not. Let's just be honest, right? But the fact is, if you retaliate, you get somebody back, whatever, don't say it in victory lane. Don't say it in a podcast. Don't say it in an interview, because people are being made examples of for opening up their track. Don't be posting on Facebook, oh man, I took care of that guy. It's going to come back to bite you. So do your deal, take care of business, shut your mouth, move on. That would be my suggestion to you. So, Bert, our weekly pick'ems here. Standings, Jeff and Kurt at 37, Mike's at 34. Me and Kent are both at 31. Dan's at 30. Brad's at 26. Bert is at 25. You're kind of looking to kind of crawl out of there. And old not so hot Carl at 16, looking to maybe make a move here this week.
I guess I have to thank you guys for adding the MLRA races, because I got 2 wins out of that.
I think I got one of them. I think I did get one. I think I had JD one night. So, but yeah. Thank Jeff for that one. Way to go, Jeff. Good call on that one. So this week, we got the Kyle Larson Late Model Challenge at Volunteer, World of Outlaw Sprint Cars at US 36 and at 81 Speedway Friday and Saturday. A pair of Lucas Oil MLRA races at Tri-City. We now have one. We were going to pick 2, but we now have one Hunt the Front Series event at Alltech for 20 grand to win. And the NASCAR Cup on dirt at Bristol. Okay. So, of course, our very own Jonathan Davenport going to be racing in that. So we're going to see if maybe dirt guys can go 3 in a row here. That would be kind of cool, because Tyler Reddick won this last week, right? Kyle Larson the week before, I think is what it was. So back-to-back weeks in the Cup Series with a late model guy winning. And
Larson won this last week.
Did Reddick win the week before?
Reddick the previous week, yeah.
So they were the last 2. I think D-Swab put that on social media. So hoping maybe we can get a 3rd in a row for a late model guy here. So the last lap brought to you by our friends over at Zeuli's Race Engines. So racing season's here. What do you want to do? You want to win race, right? We heard Jim on the earlier segment saying racing ain't fun, winning is fun. Well, how do you win? You got to have good equipment. That includes a good engine, right? Keep track of this stuff, because not only do Zeuli's Race Engines win races, they win championships. And if you want to get off to the fast start, get a hold of Frank over there, because they build some really, really good pieces. Get on the list early. And you want to make sure, because he's really, really busy, because they have really, really good stuff. Can't beat them? Join them, Zeuli's Race Engines. So a little quick shout out to the folks at Village Lanes in Superior, Wisconsin. So the crew over there at Village Lanes, they've been sponsoring races for eons, right? They have a car show every year, and they have a fish fry, and it was cold, but it was very well supported. So just want to thank them guys for all they do for racing. Midwest Modified, we got another third generation driver here. Bert, I'm jacked for this one. I'm jacked. I talked to Buzzy Adams today, the human highlight reel. His kid, right? I think he's 14. I have notes on my phone. In fact, I'm going to look at it as we talk because I literally have some pictures here that we can post of this dude. So Blake Adams is going to be racing in the Midwest Modified division. Buzzy, Bert, is going to run Red Cedar and Rice Lake pretty much weekly. Blake, 70% at Red Cedar. Most of the nights at Rice Lake, he's in Travel League Baseball. And Twin Porch people, he's going to be racing Proctor. Super, super excited about that. 14 years old, 4 years on the cart. Bert, how many feature wins do you think this kid has?
In the cart?
Yeah.
How many years has he raced?
4.
40.
103. 103 feature wins. He's kind of an underachiever, right? Kind of an underachiever, 103 wins. But I mean, what a legacy, right? You got Dave Adams, Buzzy Adams, right? Of course, on the other side of the family, you got Tim McMahon in his 50th year. He's in an MB. They got a used one that was wrecked. They fixed it up, and he's going to race a lot. The third generation of Adams. And I asked Buzzy, I said, Buzzy, it would be awesome for you to race for a national title, right? I mean, the modified division heating up. You got Johnny Brokey, TPO, 2-time defending champ, Shane Sabraski. You got to add Buzzy Adams to the mix. He's like, I got one still in me. Ain't going to be this year. I'm focused on the kid, but I think it'd be kind of fun to race for another natty. So Buzzy Adams fans, I'm excited for when that happens, but super excited for Blake to be behind the wheel. Did you see Devin Moran doing some fenderless stuff?
Yeah, one of my friends sent me a picture of a sprint car that Devin Moran was going to be racing, and it was a screenshot from Facebook. So the first thing, he sent it to me on Sunday. So the first thing I did was to see when it was originally posted on Facebook, because if it was posted on Saturday, then I would just chalk it up because it was April Fool's Day on Saturday. But it was Sunday when it was posted. So yeah, it was legit.
Sounds like he's going to run the million to win. So that's going to be pretty cool. Sounds like he's gearing up to run a 410 in that deal. So Devin Moran going to do a little sprint car racing there. That'll be kind of fun. Speaking of racing things they're not used to, Superman Jonathan Davenport, double duty this weekend. We'll touch on that more in a second. Almost a donkey award because in our pick'ems, I picked him to win on the late model. I'm like, what a dumbass. Like, he's going to be racing NASCAR. Stupid. Jeff, thank you, Jeff, because he literally slipped and told me that I picked him. Don Shaw, quick shout out to Don Shaw, owner of the I-94 EMR Speedway in Fergus Falls, got another win down in the desert. Boyd's Speedway, who's been having some bigger late model stuff, World of Outlaw action and stuff like that. Sounds like they sold the track and they're closing the doors. Not sure if they're going to reopen. Tough deal for the track down in Georgia. Ricky Weiss.
Well, the fact that a construction company bought it, that's not a good sign.
That's usually not good. So let's just try to stay optimistic and see if things turn around. But man, that's a tough deal. It sucks to see another one bite the dust. Ricky Weiss won at Bristol in I don't even know what the series is, but some kind of a regional or local type deal or whatever. Thoughts?
Well, it was funny because I saw a post on Facebook. Ricky Weiss cherry picking at Bristol.
And here's the deal: Ricky's racing. He races for a living. I think that's all he does is build cars. Race for a living. And yeah, it sounds like he lost one of his bigger sponsors and all that. So I mean, is it kind of come down to the fact that you got to do what you got to do to pay the bills? And so hopefully he can find himself a big sponsor. It's kind of fun to have another northern guy to cheer for on some of these big races. So let's jump into the 3 bold predictions.
Well, before we get to that, since we mentioned that he was going to be making his first Xfinity start, Derek Kraus finished in the top 10 in his first Xfinity start in NASCAR. So
that's a solid night then for him, or solid day, I guess it would be. Thunder and lightning boomers over there for you. So 3 bold predictions. We got a couple off the board here, Bert. So first of all, I had a bad beat. I said last week that Gravel, Sweet, and Buddy Kofoid would each have at least 1 podium this past weekend at the Devil's Bowl Speedway. Brad Sweet got a win. Buddy Kofoid got second. David Gravel got a pair of 4ths. That sucks. That's bullshit. Close, but no cigar. Close, but no cigar. Bert, you had one come off the board for a win. Jimmy Owens is not going to have a Lucas or World of Hula win through March. Would you like to give a special thank you to Mother Nature, possibly? Because he had 0 World of Outlaw or Lucas races in March, right? So there is that. That kind of helped. I think he would have won at least one. So we'll still give you the point, though. So you got that one. Good job. So standings, I have 11 correct and 26 incorrect. 11 still on the board. 29.7 batting average here. Bert, you got 17 correct, 18 incorrect, 15 on the board, and a 48.6 average. I got a lot of work to do. You're getting a big jump on me here. So we each week we're picking 3 bold predictions where, you know, we say if we got it right, we say if we got it wrong, and quite frankly, it has to be something that is quantifiable, like it either did or did not happen, not an opinion-based deal. So Jeff has one that he threw out here, Bert. He said, if you take a line on a map and draw a line from Green Bay to Minneapolis to Aberdeen, South Dakota, that's kind of almost a straight line all the way across there, there will be no races north of that line before May 1st. Shawano's in that. Shawano's north of Green Bay, right?
Shawano would be a little bit north of Green Bay.
Yeah, Ogilvy's north of Green Bay. So, Jeff, Mr. Negativity, kind of a dick move here. We hope you're wrong. We want racing to happen before that. Okay. So, Bert, we'll start with you. What's your first?
I think he said May 1st, right?
Yep.
So Shawano's supposed to open on the 15th, so they would have 3 opportunities in April to race.
Right.
I think they'll get one in by at least that last Saturday in April. So, but we'll see.
I sure hope so. So what's your first one this week?
I'll start off slow and go with Chris Smokey Madden will win at Volunteer this week.
Okay. So he's gonna win that's the Kyle Larson Classic down there at Bulls Gap. I'm going to go with the rookie, 3rd generation hot shoe here. Blake Adams is going to get at least 3 Wissota Midwest Modified A main. Now, I'm going to add it in. If they go to Jimtown, or they don't really probably go to Cedar Lake, but if they end up going to Jimtown for a special, I'm going to count that. So in the Midwest Modified B Mod division, sanctioned or non-sanctioned, Blake Adams is going to get at least 3 A main wins in 2023.
Okay. It was announced that Superman will be racing in a truck at Bristol. So I will say Superman will finish in the top 15 in the truck series. I think my prediction the other week was he'd finish in the top 20 in the cup.
In the cup. Yeah. Okay. So top 15 in the truck. I'm going to stay on this theme here. So Superman versus the Kamikaze Kid, Tyler Carpenter. Okay. Both of them are going to be racing in the truck series at Bristol. Tyler Carpenter will beat Jonathan Davenport. Brad, Mike, that one's for you guys.
Okay. Third one is staying with Bristol. I will say the dirt racers. I may get, I guess you determine if I get multiple points for this, but Kyle Larson will finally get his dirt win in NASCAR and win with Tyler Reddick finishing second, another dirt racer.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty specific. So, I mean, if they go 1-2 the way that you have, that's a bonus point there for you if that happens. I'm going to take some, I don't know if it's low-lying fruit, but I'm going to take kind of a light one here. There's a pair of late model races this weekend at the Tri-City Speedway in Granite City, Illinois. Number 32 will win at least one late model feature there this weekend.
Okay.
Number 32 will win at least one feature.
Oh, you're not saying a name.
Oh, yeah. All right. So you caught that. So number 32. Let's see how that works, right? So with that said, Bert, I'm excited. Next week, unveiling our new series of shows that we're going to do. Kind of the mostly Wissota, but it's going to tie in Jim Falls. It's going to tie in Cedar Lake. But I'm going to be doing a recap show, power rankings. Talk about upcoming events. Going to be interviewing a driver, short little interviews here and that in each class. This is going to be for lates, mods, supers, Midwest mods, street stocks, and mod 4s, pures, Hornets. And we'll even talk a little bit on the USRA and crate late models. So pretty excited for that. Want to give a little promoting and some love to some of the racers out there that deserve it. But any closing thoughts here on episode 171 before we close the book?
No, it was fun speaking with your right-hand man from your racing days. So that was pretty cool.
I'm thankful that he was nice and kept out some of the more colorful stories that he might have had. So that was kind of good. But I was super appreciative of him and everybody that helped me in my racing career, starting with mom and dad and family and my daughter and, all my great sponsors and pit people along the way. I mean, I had a lot of help. I had a fun career and yeah, I miss it. I mean, I'd still like to race, but man, it don't quite cost the same as it did then. And I could barely scrape by to do it then. So now probably wouldn't be quite so easy, but had a hell of a good time, had a good run. So again, thanks to all of our great sponsors that we have. Support them when you can. Episode 172 coming next week. If you have feedback, if you have questions, fire them over. If you have a favorite 172 or 72, fire that over with some info. And Bert, always fun talking racing. Thanks for tuning in to the One to Go Show.